All right, everybody. Have you guys ever seen a situation where someone awful actually tries to do a generally agreed upon good thing, but in trying to do the good thing, they're so awful and they're so bad, they still take the L because they don't know how to properly do that good thing. That is pretty much what this story is an example of that we're about to get into. You see, Trump has now threatened a 100% tariff on BRICS countries if they abandon the US dollar. BRICS, by the way, is a gathering of countries that have some sort of economic trade agreement. They're mostly countries that are either tenuously cool with the US, have no relationship with the US, or are outright hostile to the US. So we're not talking about a group of countries that we're super friendly with by any means here. We're talking about I think Russia is one of them. Many of them are cool with America, but kind of tenuously, not super close. It's not like a group of super friendly countries. 100%, my guy, what is wrong with you? Yeah, 100%. A 100% tariff. Good God. He really does, and his supporters really do think that, yeah, BRICS is like reverse NATO. That's a good way to put it, Canada's Joel. So 100% tariffs, insane. Trump and his supporters genuinely think tariffs are the biggest power play in the world of geopolitics and world trade. It is not. It is basically shooting yourself in the dick and saying somehow that hurt the other guy. The president-elect wrote that the coalition of non-Western countries should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful U.S. economy if it backs a currency other than the U.S. dollar. Do you want to know why he's likely doing this? Because these tariffs are likely to kill the U.S. dollar very quickly. Not wipe it off the face of the earth, but really hurt it. And it would actually make sense for a lot of these countries who aren't even friendly with America to start backing another currency besides the U.S. dollar since, well, even on an objective, biased level, the US dollar is not going to be that stable in the coming years, especially with Trump's public economic policy. And Trump's threat is to make the US dollar even less stable in the coming years. It's like, Jesus, dude. Do you not know why they're doing this? In a Truth Social post Saturday, President-elect Donald Trump said he would impose a 100% tariff on the BRICS geopolitical coalition of non-Western countries if the group moves away from trading using the US dollar. Quote, the idea is that the BRICS countries are trying to move away from the dollar while we stand by and watch is over, Trump wrote. We require a commitment from these countries that they will neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar, or they will face 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful US economy. That is not how tariffs work, Trump. They are not the ones paying. It is the people, the retail places like stores here in America that need to buy a amount of supply of a thing. If it is manufactured or even sold by, say, China, for instance, and it's tariffed at 100%, that means that Walgreens has to pay twice as much at customs in taxes just to import the goods, and then they have to sell it at probably more than a 100% markup in order to make back what they spent just on the taxes at customs. Oh yeah, the BRICS countries are Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates, and there are other countries that have applied to join as well. There are other countries actively joining it as we speak. They could go and find another sucker, Donald Trump said. There is no chance that the BRICS will replace the US dollar in international trade, and any country that tries should have to wave goodbye to America, the president-elect added. The BRICS alliance is a coalition of non-Western countries that convened for the first official BRICS summit in 2009, with Brazil, Russia, India, and China joining the informal group. South Africa joined a year later, cementing the BRICS name. At a 2023 summit, the group expanded for the first time in over a decade, inviting Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. You can see how it's like, it's not necessarily only countries that are against America, but it's certainly countries that are not willing to fully bow to America in the sense that, like, a lot of the West is. And when I say bow, I don't mean it in, like, the LARPy lefty sense. I mean it, like, in the most vague sense possible. Like, they don't play as well with America as a lot of the rest of the world does. At the same summit, the issue of de-dollarization, or reducing the influence of the US dollar in global trade, gained steam, though it's not a new idea for the group. Experts are skeptical that BRICS would succeed in creating its own currency for global trade, pointing to infighting between the member nations and major differences in the way the countries run their economies and financial institutions. Still, some members of BRICS are among the United States' largest trading partners, including India and China. According to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, the United States goods and services trade with China totaled an estimated $758.4 billion in 2022, and the goods and services trade between the U.S. and India totaled an estimated $191.8 billion in 2022. Representatives for the BRICS countries' embassies in the U.S. did not immediately respond to requests for comment. This is Trump's second time this week threatening to raise tariffs on outside nations. On Monday, this is literally for Trump the new wall, by the way. I wonder if Trump actually follows through on it, or if he only half follows through on it in the same way that he did with the wall. This really does feel like it's Trump's wall equivalent to 2024, is the tariffs. Like, extremely popular despite being overwhelmingly agreed upon to be a destructive and awful policy. But the American people are willing to follow a dream. It's the American dream, baby, is to go against what all of the nerds in the glasses and the lab coats are saying and to line our own pockets despite them telling us it's impossible. That's what America is all about. Fuck those nerds. Make money! On Monday, the president-elect wrote in a post on Truth Social that he planned to impose a 25% tariff on products imported from Mexico and Canada. He argued that the purpose of the tariff would be to curb the fentanyl crisis. In the same post, he threatened to slap a 10% tariff on China, writing, "I have had many talks with China about the massive amount of drugs, in particular fentanyl, being sent into the United States, but to no avail. Until such a time as they stop, we will be charging China an additional 10% tariff above any additional tariffs, and on all of their many products coming into the United States of America. The tariffs just got 10% higher." On Friday, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, as I'll pronounce it because it's funny to piss off Canadians, traveled to West Palm Beach to meet with Trump at his Mar-a-Lago resort. On Saturday, in a separate social media post, Trump called their conversation very productive. Trump added, I made it very clear that the United States will no longer sit idly by as our citizens become victims to the scourge of this drug epidemic, caused mainly by the drug cartels and fentanyl pouring in from China. Too much death and hardship. Prime Minister Trudeau has made a commitment to work with us to end this terrible devastation of U.S. families. In a letter sent to Trump Tuesday, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum wrote that migration and drug consumption in the United States cannot be addressed through threats or tariffs. Quote, "What is needed is cooperation and mutual understanding to tackle these significant challenges. For every tariff, there will be a response in kind, until we put at risk our shared enterprises," she added. Sheinbaum and Trump spoke over the phone on Wednesday, but the conversation spurred a he-said-she-said controversy over whether Sheinbaum had agreed to stop immigration from Mexico into the United States, something Trump alleged she did. How would she stop it? In her own recollection of the conversation, Sheinbaum wrote on, by the way, you'll notice that Trump talks about other countries as if their leaders are sending immigrants here, so that's kind of that showing its face here, quite blatantly. In her own recollection of the conversation, Scheinbaum wrote on X, or Twitter, as normal people call it, that I explained to him the comprehensive strategy that Mexico has followed to address the migration phenomenon, respecting human rights. We reiterate that Mexico's position is not to close borders, but instead build bridges between government and people. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that makes Americans call you a liberal. What kind of libtard shit is that? What the hell? Now, if any of you guys are, not really understanding what tariffs are, there's a really good video by Legal Eagle about it. The only problem with it is it's kind of long, so we're only going to watch, like, a bit of it where he goes over the basics of tariffs and, of course, the type of effect that this is going to have. Though keep in mind, this video was no doubt made, or granted, it's only 3 days old, but it was no doubt produced. Most of its script writing and editing and everything probably came before Trump started raising the percentages on these tariffs that he suggested. So all of the damage that Legal Eagle suggests could come about because of these tariffs, keep in mind, it's gonna be worse because Trump has promised worse since this video.
But the word tariff is the most beautiful word in the dictionary, remember that.
Wow, so if we tariff the exports from other countries, they'll just pay us money with no downsides? Why didn't we try this before? Because that's not how tariffs work. And we have tried this before, and it might have caused the Great Depression. Just after the election, people suddenly started to search for how tariffs work and who pays for tariffs. The answer...
You can literally track presidencies using the S&P 500. It's actually crazy. Like, going back and looking at decades worth of, like, the rise and fall of the S&P 500 is really... It's really stark. Because you can see, obviously it tanks with every recession, but you can see, Republican recession, Republican recession, Republican recession, Republican recession. The really good chart for that is the S&P 500 index fund. Another good place you can go to is charts that track the continuous GDP growth year by year of the United States. You can see the recessions on those as well, and it's always towards the end or middle of, like, a hyper-populist Republican presidency. It's crazy.
May surprise you, or it might be blindingly obvious. But can Trump install whatever tariffs he wants, and who pays for them? Chaos lawyer Liz Dye explains.
Thanks, Devin. Donald Trump has promised to slap 60% tariffs on all goods coming in from China and a 10% tariff on goods imported from all other countries. On the campaign trail, he even threatened to impose a whopping 100% tariff on auto imports from America's largest trading partner, Mexico. Before we talk about if he can legally do that or if it's a good idea, let's define our terms. The center-right tax foundation...
That was so good. Just the... It's not...
defines tariffs as taxes imposed by one country on goods imported from another country. Tariffs are effectively a tax on consumer goods paid by you and me and every other person who wants to buy stuff. So say that a Chinese manufacturer agrees to sell...
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. The tariff is a tax, but it's a tax on the shipment when it arrives in the country. And so what happens is a retailer, like Walmart or something, orders a massive shipment of something that was manufactured or made in China and is sold by a company in China, for instance, for just this example, right? And when it enters the country via the bulk order made by Walmart to one of its locations, or probably to one of its distribution centers, and then it would get sent out to locations more realistically. But when it gets sent to the big distro center, before it enters the country, Walmart, the company, the American company, has to pay whatever the tariff is, the tax, the percentage is how much of the cost they paid in taxes they have to pay, additionally, just to bring the shipment into the country. So now Walmart's had to pay, let's say, a 100% tax on their big shipment they brought into the country. They ship it out to their from their distro center to different stores, and now Walmart has lost out a ton of money in the process of getting, like, things made and shipped to where they need to go, which means we're going to end up paying that in the end, not Walmart, because what that means is that Walmart isn't going to take that on the chin. They aren't going to take that loss. They are instead going to raise prices for us, the consumer, in order to make back the difference in what they had to pay in tariffs. So Walmart will not lose money. Walgreens won't lose money. None of the retailers that will be affected by these tariffs will lose money. None of the companies that have that do their manufacturing overseas will actually be as harmed. It's going to be the American people who take the L here because they're just going to raise the prices.
Nike a pair of shoes for $20. A 60% tariff means that the importer, that is Nike, pays $12 to the US government when those sneakers are offloaded from a cargo ship docked in Long Beach, California. Trump insists that the
it's when it enters the country.
Chinese manufacturer is the one who ultimately pays for that tariff, and that this will swell the US government coffers with no impact on the American consumer whatsoever. But that's just wrong. The Chinese manufacturer is never going to eat the $12 tariff, and Nike doesn't want to reduce its net profit. So the end result is that the $12 tariff gets passed on to the American consumer at the point of sale, raising the wholesale price of that pair of sneakers by $12.
Yeah, if I can interject for a second, the problem is...
Yeah, people think that if we tariff China, then Chinese companies, or God forbid, some even think the Chinese government pays the tariff. Like we can tax other countries. That's just not a thing.
Actually worse. You think, okay, a 60% tariff, so the consumer just ends up paying $12 more. Not great, but not terrible.
You know what's the best way for companies to lose money? Don't spend your money with them. Look for alternatives. Well, RPG lovers, the problem is every company, for the most part, that has enough stock or enough. I shouldn't use the term stock in conversations like this because people think I'm talking about like company stock. They have enough inventory to sell to the entire buyer base, right? Like manufacturing in America is expensive. And there's a reason why the vast majority of American companies and retailers get their things manufactured or bought from other countries. It is far cheaper for the company, which also makes our prices cheaper, because if these companies aren't having to pay more to get the products on the shelves for us, we don't have to pay more for them on the shelves, because you know the companies are going to make us pay the difference. They always do. And there's no alternatives. There's a full monopoly here. There's like 5 companies in America, like at the end of the day. There's like 5 big corporations that own almost everything. So there's no real alternatives to go to. The alternative was voting for Kamala Harris. That was the alternative.
But no, because sellers operate by gross margin. So if Nike imports a shoe for $20, they need to make a profit. But they aren't selling directly to the consumer. They need to sell the shoe to the retailer. And transport, advertising, and overhead is expensive. And doubling the manufacturing cost before selling it at wholesale would be totally normal. So let's say they sell it to Foot Locker for $40. But Foot Locker has to pay staff and operating costs in all their stores, which is expensive. So Foot Locker roughly doubles the wholesale cost of it again and ultimately sells the shoe to a consumer for $80. But that's in a tariffless world. A 60% tariff makes it $32 at import instead of $20, and $64 at wholesale, and then $128 at retail, assuming the same margins. So a $12 increase in tariffs on the cost of goods could easily result in a $48 increase in the final sales price that consumers pay.
Damn, it goes even higher than I thought. I guess that's if every single aspect of it is against you. Like if you're having a manufactured, sold from a Chinese company, then bought by a American retailer, then it's going to go through upwards of, it's going to go through 3 tariffs as it exchanges hands. Good God. Well, I guess it would just be 2.
This is a simplification. In the real world, it would depend on the pricing power, and some of the costs would be shared between the parties. But you get the idea of how a small increase in cost of goods result in a much larger downstream cost to consumers. Plus, the domestic manufacturers don't just sit back while their foreign competitors raise their price. Why would they turn down free money when the consumer doesn't have any choice but to pay more?
Prices will rise globally.
They raise their price to match or just undercut the foreign competition. Oh, and the cherry on top is that our foreign trading partners don't just sit back and take it either. They issue retaliatory tariffs against American exports, making them less competitive abroad. So people buy fewer American goods. And none of those taxes nor the original tariffs actually go to American companies. I don't know why people think this is boring.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the, anyone? The Great Depression, raised tariffs. Did it work? Anyone?
If tariffs just make everything more expensive, why would we even want them? Well, in the early days of the Republic, we funded the government with tariffs on imports along with excise taxes on sinful products like alcohol and tobacco, which worked out more or less okay for about 100 years, especially for wealthy industrialists.
Could the tariffs cause a global crisis? Yeah, easily. Like, if Americans start buying a lot of foreign goods, then there's a good chance that those foreign companies start raising their prices just to fuck over Americans and get more money out of us. Yeah, totally.
Or the so-called robber barons, who paid basically nothing to Uncle Sam. But in 1893, wheat prices crashed, and an overexpansion of silver mines and railroads led to an economic bubble that burst. And even though the Great Depression hadn't happened yet, the panic of 1893 ushered in the greatest depression that the country had ever seen, with unemployment rocketing to almost 20%. Imports dried up overnight, and no one had any money for alcohol and tobacco, which meant that the government had to go find some other source of funding. And that's how we wound up with a federal income tax instead of a pure consumption tax. In 1913, Congress ratified the 16th Amendment, which states the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived. The U.S. government finally had a stable funding mechanism that wasn't directly tethered to the extreme ups and downs of the economy. And it was more fair. Because if you think about it, you only need one toothbrush, and Bill Gates only needs one toothbrush. But if the tax on a toothbrush is, say, 12 cents, well, that's a lot bigger share of your paycheck than it is of Bill Gates's. But
yeah, I mean, our tax system could have easily ended up way worse, where it's just like rich people could just be a little more frugal and pay less taxes. There'd probably be way more loopholes, too, in that case, where, like, you could find ways to own things without technically owning them and not have to pay taxes on the consumption of that thing. Yeah, our tax system in America is bad. It's not the best, but it's still pretty good. Could have been way worse.
Trump believes
we actually tax our billionaires and our millionaires a decent amount. We've got a lot of money that's like harvested from the American people. It's just not necessarily all that efficiently like spent, you know? Like the US government backs private healthcare quite like severely, and if we reallocated that tax money instead towards backing Medicare for all or something, I mean, we'd be saving a lot of money. People would pay less for Medicare for all than they would for like out-of-pocket health insurance or out-of-pocket costs for getting anything taken care of or for insurance. So like the American people are just very short-sighted. They don't have a very we don't have a very good ability of it really feels like you have to promise something so insane like Trump for the American people to believe in a positive change. Something good but also tenable seems impossible to Americans. But the more impossible it is, the more possible it seems to Americans. I don't get why people didn't buy like Bernie's narrative, but they bought Trump's, for instance. Like both should presumably seem as insane as the other to the American people, but they bought the idea that tariffing other countries is going to line every American's pockets and make gas cheaper or whatever.
In cutting taxes on corporations and wealthy individuals, essentially returning us to the pre-16th Amendment days. In fact, the massive tax cut he rammed through during his first term is about to expire. Spoiler alert, it did not increase government revenues as promised.
This is a big reason why billionaires are highly backing Trump this time around, by the way, or why they back Trump so hard, is that Trump's big billionaire tax cut he passed in his last term was about to expire, and they needed him back in office to reinstate it and keep their taxes low for another 8 years.
And now he wants to make those tax cuts permanent. So Trump has to find another source to make up for all the cash that will not be coming into the government coffers if he keeps cutting taxes for rich people. And that's yet another reason he's so invested in telling the lie that other countries pay import tariffs. In fact, it's a lie he's stretched to fit every occasion. Here he is in September explaining to the Economic Club of New York that the solution for skyrocketing childcare costs is, say it with us now, more tariffs. And you know what? We're going to let you listen to that entire 2-minute answer without any edits.
If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down,
7 times bankrupt smart businessman. Oh, Robert House, they've got a pre-canned response for that. They'll be like, oh, but filing for, it's not the same as filing for personal bankruptcy. Filing for bankruptcy on a business that's not doing well is actually very smart business. It's very smart. He actually ends up getting a payout for that. It's like, okay, but if he has if he's had 7 failing businesses he's had to file for bankruptcy on, doesn't that imply he's not that good of a businessman? So that is the response to their inevitable canned response when you bring up that he's 7 times bankrupt.
I was somebody, we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that because look, childcare is childcare. There's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country. Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare, that it's going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time.
It's insane how long this guy talks without saying a fucking word of substance, you know? I think that's really what the American people want to hear. Fucking nothing. Just a lot of words that mean goddamn jack shit. It's actually infuriating to listen to him talk, because you can tell he's just yapping.
Coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on in our country, because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions of dollars, and as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive.
Hold on, no, it's trillions. Trillions of dollars. That's how he says it. Trillions of dollars.
It's, relatively speaking, not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in. We're going to make this into an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people. But we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. It's about make America great again. We have to do it because right now we're a failing nation. So we'll take care of it. Thank you.
Now, sorry to interrupt, but if you're going to upend the entire economy, you'll probably want a good lawyer. But if you need a great...
Okay. I love you, Legal Eagle. I love you, Legal Eagle. But we saw what we needed to see. We got the tariff breakdown. He'll be 82 years old by 2028. Woo! Boomer president. He's going to be older than Biden at the end of his next term, right? How old is Biden? Oh no, he's gonna be as old as Biden. Oh man, I can't wait to see 82-year-old Trump. That's gonna be crazy. Guys, we're gonna get to watch Trump go through his, like, sundowning phase over the next 4 years. Isn't that crazy? Like, I don't know how many of you guys know this, but I'm pretty sure there is a tie between, Alzheimer's and other degenerative brain diseases and diabetes. And so I wonder if his god-awful McDonald's diet is going to make his brain degenerate faster. Dude, I can't wait to see... Dude, Trump's going to sundown on the White House lawn. He's going to be out there, like, just dick out, cheeks, like, glistening in the, like, sunset, like, gleam. And he's not going to have any idea where he is or what he's doing. There's just going to be a naked Trump running in circles in the White House lawn, and the Secret Service is gonna be like, Mr. Trump, this is not, I don't think this is 4D chess this time, Mr. Trump. Are you okay, sir? He's gonna be like, they're coming to draft me. They're coming to draft me. I've got bone spurs. You've got to tell them I've got bone spurs. They can't send, I don't want to go to war. He's gonna think he's back to being like 20. I love this scenario I've made up in my head here. I think it's quite funny. Listen, all I'm saying is if Trump is going to be 82 by the end of his presidency, I mean, we see where Biden is right now, and I feel like Trump's brain is not going to survive into his late life as long as Biden's did, you know? Hold on, let me check something. Fred Trump. What killed this fucker and when? Ah, damn, he died at 93 years old in 1999? Wait a second. Fred Trump died June 25th, 1999. I was born July 27th, 1999. Close enough. Welcome back, Fred Trump. Fuck, Trump could live to his 90s. Damn, what killed him? What killed him? We gotta know what killed him. We have to know. What's gonna take out Alzheimer's? No way did Alzheimer's get him. Wait. Hold on, please. Wealth and death. Alzheimer's! Wait. Guys. I don't think you understand. There's very few funnier ways for Trump to go than Alzheimer's. And he eats so much McDonald's. I swear, there's like an actual tie between like unhealthy diet and Alzheimer's, right? He might be fucked. He might actually get it like now. He might be in it now. Ho ho ho. Well, listen, there's always a silver lining, isn't there? Yeah, his brain is already short-circuiting. He was talking about the Revolutionary War soldiers storming the airports, remember? He might already be in it. It might already be starting. Have you heard the man talk recently? Of course he already has it, Zan. Yeah, I think he might. Like, he might actually be literally more brain melted than Biden. But Biden stutters and just kind of has that, like, mush mouth, and so people hear that, and they're like, oh, his brain is melting. But Trump might be what an actual brain-melting senior citizen looks like. Has it begun, guys? How long does Alzheimer's take? When is he gonna die? Well, his dad died at 92. Roughly 10 years after the age he'll be when he leaves office, in 4 years if he does leave office. But remember, Trump's not a healthy guy. I feel like Fred Trump was in good shape. I feel like he was on top of his health, you know? I feel like bro could be cooked. Donald Trump literally could die at any moment, though, which leaves us with Vance. Oh, yeah, we would be stuck with Vance, huh? I mean, Vance is just kind of a, like, he's just kind of, like, cucked out to Trump. I don't think he'd know what to do if he got the presidency. I don't know if he'd know, like, how to continue being as bad as Trump was, if that makes sense. I don't think it would be worse. I think it would be slightly better. Vance wouldn't be able to coalesce people around him in the same way Trump does. If Trump dies, I don't know if there's going to be a MAGA movement anymore. They need someone else, and I don't know if anyone can repeat what Trump did. Maybe they can. Maybe someone new can come along and do another Trump, but man, like, Trump, I feel, was the face of, like, the worst of what can come out of this stuff, you know? Ride the Rails, thank you for the tier 1 sub. I really appreciate that. Very kind of you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Like I say to all people who have donated, thank you so much. And of course, have a great time with that blue name of yours. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for the tier 1. But yeah, with all that said, if you guys enjoyed this segment, please consider leaving a like if you haven't already, especially if you're watching live. Every single thumbs up that you guys leave on my live streams forces YouTube to push my content and the algorithm to more people. And, you know, it also helps the streams do better. And, of course, it's like casting a blue ballot for my content to be pushed to more people by YouTube, just on a general basis. So make sure you're hitting that like button on all my stuff if you want to support me. Same goes for commenting. Likes and comments are massive on all my new videos. It really does help. It's the best way to help a video go viral. And of course, if you want to see more from me on other platforms, you can subscribe and ring the bell icon and follow my social medias, linked down below in the description, including following me on Blue Sky, where I've gotten a lot more active lately since it's like the new Twitter now, and my fan Discord, where at least once a week I host a gaming event, a call-in stream, or a watch party in the Xander's Theater section of my Discord. It is open to everybody who's a member of the Discord to join, and it's a great time just sitting down watching a show or a movie with your favorite streamer. Consider joining the Discord. It's great. It's awesome. One of your better shows, thanks. Well, that wasn't the end of the stream, Robert House. That's just the end of the first segment. But yeah, if you enjoyed it, then leave a like. And finally, if you want to support me directly financially and you can afford it and you feel like it, then consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or supporting me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buying merch with the Streamlabs link down below if you feel like getting some Zan merch. Regardless of how you support the stream, though, even if you've just been watching and lurking, I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you again.